Good afternoon everybody. It's midday now, and after not posting a video yet this week, because I like to do that every week just to catch up and see where I am at and what's going on in my head, and it helps to put things in order. And then as I was doing some cleaning up today, I thought, hang on a minute, I've got a few things here that I could actually talk about. And there's not much to talk about in the garden just yet because of all the snow melt, and the lawn is just a mess, and I haven't actually done much there with all the weather we've had. However, there are some things I'll talk about in another video to do with that. But for today, I just want to talk about some of the things that I'm trying to do to reduce the waste I produce from our home, and some of the things I do to upcycle, recycle, and just try to change the throwaway culture, at least within our own home, and to be a bit more considerate in the way that I use things and try not to throw things away as much. So one of the obvious things that everybody, I'm sure, uses at some time are the jars, recycling of the glass jars. We're trying to go away from buying the plastic jars anymore and use the glass jars instead, because apparently it is economically actually cheaper to use the glass jars than the plastic. That's both on the wallet and the environment. So we're trying to, I do have quite a few plastic things that I still have, but I'm not going to be throwing stuff away because that's a bit of a contradiction. I will use it until it cannot be used any longer. Like this plastic old hot chocolate jar. It's quite nice and tidy when it's cleared, and I was thinking if that fits in one of my freezer drawers, then I could keep stuff like this to freeze stuff in instead of using the Ziploc bags and things, because they again are not a recyclable thing. But if this will fit in the freezer, then of course, because they've got plastic lids, they're not going to rust in the freezer. And I know there's some people who use mason jars for freezing things, but I'm a bit dubious about putting glass in a freezer because it becomes so fragile and easy to break in a freezer. So I'm quite happy to reuse the recycling one, the plastic ones, so that I don't so it makes it a bit easier, and I don't have to keep buying and throwing away the Ziploc bags. Because I know my grandmother, when I was a child, she used to keep her Ziploc bags and wash them and reuse them, but I would only really use them for meat, so I'm not going to reuse stuff I've kept meat in, even though we don't really use meat much anymore. But I still think it's probably a better idea to use something that I can wash and reuse for quite a long time, so I'm doing that. This jar I love. It's quite a massive jar. It was a mayonnaise jar, a Christmas one, and I bought it specifically because I needed mayonnaise, and it was a pretty jar that I could reuse and would look very nice. So that comes in handy for things like the dried herbs and packets of seeds and things that we buy, and nuts to store in. So they're handy. I mean, usually if I want long-term storage, and for me that means more than a year, then I wouldn't use any of these jars. I would use the screw top mason jars, and I would get a vacuum sealer pump thing to vacuum seal them to keep for long storage. But for up to a year, these are fine. I don't have a problem with them. So yeah, jars reusing. This was given to me, a couple of them was given to me by a neighbour. It needs new seals, but they're not really good for long-term storage of things unless you do a lot of canning and stuff like, well, what the Americans call canning and we call bottling. But I don't like that kind of preserving because it usually involves a lot of either vinegars or sugar syrups. We're trying to get away from that kind of unhealthy stuff. But it's good enough for the storage of, again, things like grains and things like that. So I keep them, and they're lovely. They are quite pretty. I've always dreamt of having shelves full of them. At the minute, all I have is shelves above doors full of tubs and boxes and things. Yeah, that should be much prettier with pretty jars of storage. It will be eventually. But for now, I'm focusing on the storage in jars and things. This is a glass, but used to be a tub for Nutella. They used to do the glass ones. I think they still do, with a plastic lid on. And when it washed, I thought, well, that makes a perfectly good drinking jar. So it just goes in there. This is one we buy. You usually buy these little ones for little ingredients for when you do baking and cooking or what have you, little bits of, you know, your salt and things, little things. But these were from those posh desserts that you buy. I think they were the goo ones. Now, I never spend money on desserts like that, but they were reduced and they had reusable jars. And I wanted a dessert, so to me that was a bargain, and I grabbed them, and I've had these for years, and so that's great. I don't go out to buy these things specifically unless it falls within the budget of what I'm trying to do, and if anything that's reduced, if it was something I wanted in the first place, then I grab it. So they are very great. So here are some of the other jars, some of the jam jars that I reused, some of my mint from the garden from last year. And that is, when you open the jar, the smell of mint just absolutely smacks you in the face. It's gorgeous. And that's my chocolate mint that I've kept for years, and I'm hoping to keep it going because it does have a slightly chocolate scent to it. A friend of mine gave me a teapot and this lovely little tea strainer thing for herbs, for teas, instead of tea bags. So I think that's great. That's one little easy thing I can use for my herbal teas without, you know, using bought teas in the tea bags. Some of them are recyclable and some are not. I usually, because I use a lot of herbal teas and fruit teas, the bags I've always chucked in the composter anyway, and they've been fine. But some of the newer ones, the pyramid ones, you can get them really posh and expensive ones. They're like a type of net fabric. Now, I don't know if you can open them and refill them again yourself. If not, then that's pretty much of a waste. I know it's supposed to be more environmentally friendly, but what do you do with that net? Can it be composted? So I spotted on Pinterest, actually I'm always on Pinterest, and I spotted some cute little handmade fabric tea bags, homemade. So I'll have a go at that one day as well, especially if I'm going to be making a load of my own fruit and herb teas as well. And I've been inspired in that direction by a lady called Heidi from Rain Country. I absolutely love watching their videos because they're doing practically exactly what I want to do. And they live in a suburb, granted. They have a much bigger garden than I have, but still they're doing what I want to do. And they're in a climate in America that's virtually exactly the same as ours, with the same kind of rainfall. So I follow a lot of what they do because they are doing exactly what I'm doing and trying to do. So that's a real inspiration. I find it handy to take inspiration from a lot of people who are already doing this kind of thing. This is my oregano from last year. The plant is dead now because I moved it from the allotment and it did not like it. But at least I've got some of the flowers and leaves in here to make either teas with or add to use as normal herbs. I've got my chia seeds in this one. I've got lots of seeds everywhere. This one is not just for seeds and herbs and stuff. This is my tumble dryer fluff. I keep that because that is a very good fire tinder. Now, I don't have an indoor fire in this house, an open fire yet. We will do eventually. But we will have an outdoor cooking area. So that will probably happen before the open fire in the house, though I would really like to do that before the next winter. But yeah, so jars are really handy for storing absolutely anything. I also found when I was doing some spring cleaning this tin, and I'd had these tins for, oh my goodness, how many years have I had these tins? That's got to be about 7 or 8 years, and I clean forgot I had them. It was stacked in the back of a cupboard, and I looked inside and I got bicarbonate of soda in there, which I use a lot of with cleaning. I'll do another video another time about the stuff I use for cleaning. But as you can see inside, the tin is fine. There's no rust whatsoever. It's dry, and of course bicarb is very good at doing that. So yep, I will go back to using. I've got 2 more hidden somewhere, and I'll find it out and start using them again. This old laundry tablet tub I had from a family member who was going to throw it away because it was empty, and I thought, oh, hang on a bit, that would be absolutely ideal for my sprouting seeds for indoors. and I can sprout some seeds and do my little microgreens indoors and keep them separate from all the garden seeds. So they make really handy tubs. So I don't buy laundry powders and gels anymore because I find them very expensive. I'm not happy with everything that goes in them. And a friend of mine in Telford introduced me to soap nuts. Okay, these are soap nuts. They come from India and other parts of Asia. It's a plant, and this is the fruit of it. And it's full of saponins, which is used for cleaning. And you can use it for any kind of cleaning, I suppose, that needs a soap. Even for a hair rinse, although I wouldn't like to use that. I have used horsetail or mare's tail as a hair rinse before, because that's also high in saponins. And it's okay, it's very good, as long as you rinse it out with a vinegar after. And this is from EcoZone. I bought it online. It cost me £13. I think that was including the postage and packaging. And this, believe it or not, I've used for a year already. It's lasted me that much. Because it comes with a little zippable bag that you put about a handful, about so much. Oops, so much in the bags. And it's good to, it's got a little zipping bag. You can reuse it over and over again for about, I've used it 6 times in a row. So you just keep putting the bag back in the wash, in the machine. Oh, hang on. With your laundry, and I'll talk a bit more about that when I talk about the cleaning things that I use. Now, strictly speaking, it is a natural product. They do come with this lovely bag. It's a fabric bag which I could reuse for anything, especially if I want to. I could, when I wash that out, I can use it for storing lettuce in the fridge or something and keep that fresh. But okay, so that's a natural product. It's cruelty free, vegan, allergy friendly stuff, but technically it has been shipped from a very far away country, so, and there's a kind of offsetting thing there. I would like to find a closer thing. I know a lot of people, especially Heidi from Rain Country, makes her own soaps and things, and a lot of time a lot of people use Castile soap, which I would like to try later on, but I found it very expensive, so I haven't been able to do that yet, but I will do because I want to make more of my own cleaning products. So I will be changing to that, simply because I'm not so happy about importing stuff from so far away. And anyway, I need to get used to using stuff that I would be able to get hold of easier if this wasn't available. So I'd like to have my options open. Oh, there we go. Hang on, I need to catch a breath. I've been talking non-stop. Another thing we've been doing that I made yesterday. Ta-da! Beeswax! I've been wanting to do that for ages. Now, we got... hang on, me lift you up here a bit. I have a local beekeeper friend of ours, and we bought some wax from him. And I know him, and I've seen his hives, and I'm quite happy that the bees are loved and cared for and looked after, although not as I would like, because not everybody have the same principles as I do. But he is local. He lives in the same city as I do. And so I bought a whole bunch of wax off him, now 6 bars, and this, which was bigger, it was a 10-ounce bar, he gave me for £10. So it helps to have a friend who has these things, because that would have cost quite a lot more if I were to buy it from elsewhere. But it was great because I know it's 100% pure beeswax. It absolutely smells gorgeous. My husband uses the little ones on his wood to shine and protect and seal the wood. So that's a really great resource to have. If you're vegan, apparently you can use either paraffin wax or soya wax. Now, I'm not so sure about the paraffin wax because I don't know for myself personally. I haven't done the research yet to see if that's okay with like foodstuffs and what goes into it. Also soya wax, I don't know, you know, some soya is not organic and some are GM, and I'm still not so au fait with all of that stuff. but at least the beeswax I know is 100% natural, made by the bees, nothing else added. So for now I'm going to stick with that. And this is a bit of fabric that I had upstairs. I've been meaning to do this for so long, and when I got the wax, it's been sitting here for 2 weeks, and I just decided yesterday I'm going to go hunting for fabric, because somebody said you have to use cotton. I thought, well, I'll use whatever I've got. I don't know what this is because there's no salvage on it to say what it is, but I grabbed it and I used it, and it seems to be working fine. As you can see, I had the bees wrap actually wrapped into it, and I'm doing this one-handed, so give me a minute. Let me put you down a second. Okay, so basically the principle is, when you close it, the heat from your hands will kind of stick the waxed fabric where it needs to be. And just to give it an extra bit, I stick it upside down when I'm storing it, and there it is. It'll keep that clean and fresh, and you can use that for whatever you like, to cover sandwiches, to cover bowls. Okay, this is way too big if you want to cover these small bowls to put stuff in the fridge, wrap up blocks of cheese or anything really. But if you got anything sticky or wet, apparently you stick it in a bowl and cover the bowl with the wax wrap. Let's see if I can demonstrate that over a bowl. Have I got one? Hang on. I don't have a bowl big enough, but just to demonstrate, let's move this wax. Okay, just to demonstrate, this needs to be for a much bigger bowl, but what you do is you just hold it with the warmth of your hands. It will practically be a replacement for cling film, just like that, and keep it fresh. So there you are. So I made 2 of these. I gave one to my daughter, and I made a bigger one, much bigger one. I thought would be big enough for a loaf of bread, but it's not. It was after we'd eaten a lot of the bread. Okay, so this is the bread. Okay, my homemade bread, made yesterday. And this fabric was this color. So obviously, because it's natural wax, it's not going to keep that beautiful color. It goes a bit yellowy. But this is cotton, I know that for sure. I don't need to do a video because I know that there are so many videos out there on how to do bees wrap. And there are lots of different ways. Some people just put it between. I saw a lady laying sheets of foil, then the fabric, sprinkling on the wax beads, another piece of foil, and then ironing over the foil, and it melted it into the fabric. That seemed to work very good. However, I don't like using the foil. For one, I don't like where foil comes from in the manufacturing of it, and that's a very expensive thing to do. So I don't want to do that. There is a way of Heidi from Rain Country had a oven tray that she used, had the fabric on and sprinkled the wax beads on that, and then spread it when it was melted, because she heated it on top of a wood burner, and then spread it with a spatula through the fabric, and that seemed to work fine for her. But I thought, well, I don't have a wood. Oh dear, I don't have a wood burner, and I just have to stick my pan in the oven with the fabric, and then put the wax on top of the fabric and waited for it to melt and spread it in. It wasn't that easy because my tray is very small and the fabric was very big, but I did manage it afterwards. I'll tell you what though, you need a separate tray and a separate spatula and everything you use specifically for the wax, because you just can't get it off after. So yeah, I'll do that. Even the knife was hard to clean to get the wax off. So if anybody out there has any tips on how to clean wax off your utensils when making bees wrap, please let me know. Heidi has made a bag for her bread that's waxed, and I think I'll ask her how she did that. So yeah, there's quite a few things we've already started doing to do this a bit more greener. I've still got jars there on the windowsill I'm saving to reuse for something. but I have nowhere to keep them, so they're on the windowsill. This spray bottle I've had for years, and I've made my own insect repellent thing to deter silverfish. So when I need it, I just leave it on the windowsill in the sunshine for the oils to melt a bit into the water again, and then I go and, after vacuuming all the edges and skirting boards and things, I spray this around, and it does deter the silverfish. So I've got some essential oils in there and vinegar and water. So that does help. I'll talk again about that when I do a cleaning video. And please don't think that I am a clean freak, because my house is not that clean. Nobody could ever accuse me of being a clean freak, but I generally just try to keep it tidy. Another thing I recycle and reuse of containers in the kitchen are the wooden egg boxes. I've gone back to them because I was using before the plastic ones, but I'm trying to stay away from plastic, so I'm going back to the cardboard ones, and really I just stick them in the sink with water, and it's like paper mache. It comes apart so easy, and that goes in the composter, so it's not wasted and not thrown in the bin. So I'm quite happy with that. What else? From years ago, I've had these old, because family members have microwavable foods, so I keep the trays for watering trays for my plants. Keeps things tidy and it's quite handy. Tubs I use for stacking all sorts of things. I have no space in this house, seriously, it's ridiculous. And all sorts of tubs up there I've used to store dried fruit and things in. Yes, there's some of my calendula oil in there. I need to drain out and see if it's still alright. It's been there for quite some time. Yeah, I use all sorts of storage things and try to find spaces to store things. That usually takes a miracle, but I'm getting quite practiced at finding space and making space for storing things. Downsizing is good practice. Oh yes, before I go, just an update. I remember last year, I don't know if I'd done the video on YouTube, but I started my own mushroom kit thing, and it was supposed to work within 12 weeks. Well, it never did. And I was eventually going to throw it away because I couldn't see anything happening. But I did see some mycelium, the little white threads growing through it. And I thought, oh, hang on a bit. I'll just put it above the fridge, cover it with a tea towel to keep it dark. I know my kitchen's not very warm, and it's supposed to be warm, moist and dark for mushrooms. But I thought, oh, I'll just keep it and see what happens. And there's all these knobbly bits and bobs happening there. And I've taken some of the plastic away because it looks like it was making some of those mushrooms a bit brown and slippery. So I thought, oh, I'll take that away. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or not, but hey, they seem to be growing. We'll see if we have grey oyster mushrooms or something foreign soon enough. So yeah, I've just kept going with that. It lives on top of the fridge, and we'll see if we get any mushrooms. I mean, it's supposed to be much quicker than that, but because I don't have those controlled conditions, then I will just have to wing it and see what happens. And if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Ideally, I would love to have some logs outside and have outdoor mushrooms, because there's more space outdoors for that behind the shed. So maybe one day, but I'm determined to at least grow my own mushrooms. That's one step closer to self-reliance. And, you know, I will never have the luxury of land to have, you know, we've had for over 20 years the dream of a small holding, and everybody else around us was living our dream. And it was quite disheartening until I realized that, hang on, I'm just one of millions of people who will never have the luxury of a small holding, will never have land. But surely that kind of lifestyle is not out of reach for us even so. And once I accepted that, I started finding solutions of how to get a step closer to that lifestyle with what I have. And of course, studying permaculture over the past 5 years, I've learned so much, and I am so grateful that I am and can actually, as well as everybody else, do something to get a little bit closer to something more of the dream of a sustainable, no, not sustainable, I hate that word. We don't want to keep it as it is because it's not good. We want to change it for something better and improve it. So regenerative, I think, is a better word. That regenerative attitude into regenerating nature and people and ourselves and our homes to be better. So, and that can apply to lots of different things, but right here and right now I'm referring to my dream of self-reliance and a better connection with nature and providing for ourselves. So I think, if I think about it, I have a lot to be grateful for. I have got the dream, just smaller. It's certainly not like The Good Life as in the TV series. I don't want that, because that's not permaculture. That could have been done a lot better. But yeah, we are doing that. We are on our way. We have made a start. And I hadn't actually realized how much we had actually made a start with. So yeah, I would encourage everybody just to take a look at the things you have and do in your own life and in your home. And I think people would be very surprised that they have already made starts in this direction, because it's such a topic that's been going on for so many years and people are more aware of it. And I think we do sometimes do these things naturally, and sometimes we're forced to do it out of necessity. Our lives in this household have been forced by necessity all of the 29 years of our family's life. So yeah, I am taking stock and realizing it can be done. We can have that life even in a city garden, no matter what size, no matter what situation or where we are. We can all come a little bit closer to that dream if that is what we want. So I'll leave you with that, because I'm expecting a big truckload of wood chippings out the front now. I'll have to move the car and put the tarp out. We'll have a driveway full of tons of wood chips. So I need to go and do that now, and then find a miraculous place to store all of said wood chips until we use it. But another blessing that I'm really grateful for, that we will have had for free. And all it will take was loads of wheelbarrow loads through to the back garden. So I shall leave you with that and get on with the wood chipping preparations. So it'll be coming around from somebody down the road behind us, a family member who's having their trees chopped down. I won't be able to use that as mulch just yet because they're coniferous trees, and I will have to let that sit I think for a year before I could use that. The wood chippings that are on the paths, I'm sure I could rake up and put in the composter now, because they've been there since last year. But the fresh chippings I shall put on the paths, and they'll just sit there until next year, washed through with the rain. And because you can't use it neat and fresh on the flower beds, there's just too much nitrates and things going into the soil. It'll probably burn them. So the fresh chippings will go for paths and stacking up, and hopefully generate enough heat to compost down, because that is the aim, to produce enough compost for this size of garden without having to spend a fortune every year on compost, because we're not at a stage where we can produce enough compost just yet. So well, hey, for wood chips. Okay then, I'm going to leave you with that. See you all soon. Bye.